Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujaga Srijiva Gopalaka Krishna Kirtana Kanana.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Prabhupada Disciples Association Sunday morning Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class. When Prabhupada was personally present, he conducted 3 classes a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at the Matchless Gifts store front in New York City. And the classes would be about including kirtan, would last for about 2 hours and 15 minutes. And so he consistently preached Krishna consciousness to the locals there in New York City, which was all he could do. And whoever came, he would embrace them into his mission because he was 100% committed to the mission of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So in the same way, all of us, we have to take up this commitment that he set the example for. It was his enthusiasm, his determination, his knowledge, your tremendous knowledge of Krishna, and his compassion. You can imagine what the people were like back then. The people that came around him, this Paul fellow, we're going to read this in the diary this month, that Paul got upset with Prabhupada because Prabhupada kept typing and typing into the night. He didn't stop. And this Paul started to think some evil thoughts and with an intention to harm our Guru. So Prabhupada was in a very difficult situation, but it demonstrates one thing, that he was doing what he could to bring people, whoever came to him, he would let them get a chance at Krishna consciousness, which is what we're doing. And in this way, he spread the movement by gathering people into his circle of influence. So we hope you enjoy, and we're going to continue on with these classes at the beginning of them to really relive amongst ourselves Prabhupada's great mission and in his behavior, how he conducted himself. So the more insight we get, the more we'll become focused on becoming this servant of Śrīla Prabhupada and be representative of him to other people. There's a lot of confusion on this guru issue in the movement that he started. But there is no confusion here because Prabhupada is the bona fide spiritual master, and his mission is what we're representing, each one of us, without any hesitation, without any confusion, without any fear. Don't be intimidated by anybody. Just be convinced 100% that Prabhupada is the bona fide spiritual master for each one of us, period. So here we are. We're going to go to Sunday, May 1st, 1966. And we're going to go to the diaries here. Sunrise 5:01, sunset 6:54, moonsets 3:30, Dwadasi. We came back from Ananda Ashram at 6:30, and the expenditure was 30 cents. Paul was not at home at night. He went for work. Monday, the 2nd of May, sunrise 5 o'clock in the morning, sunset 6:55, moonset 3:57. Triododicee. Today I did not go out. The whole day I was engaged with my typewriter. Paul came back from work at about 10:30 a.m. and deposited with me $25 for rent. There was no expenditure. In the evening, there was a meeting. Only 5 gentlemen attending, including Paul. The contribution was $5. Mr. Carl brought his tape recorder. The appearance gorgeous, but the action is very poor. It did not act to my satisfaction. So Prabhupada is, we can see here during the day, consumed in writing books for the spreading of Krishna consciousness. Tuesday, May 3rd, sunrise 4:58, sunset 6:56, moonset 4:20, Chatur Dasi. Today I delivered the keys of 72nd house to the secretary of the landlord at 33 Riverside Drive. She returned to $35 in terms of my registered notice, so the account of 100 West 72nd Street now closed. I also handed over to Dr. Mishra the keys of the Studio 501. He invited me to dine with him on Friday the 6th. Now, Dr. Mishra is the owner of the Ananda Ashram, and Dr. Mishra is also a Mayavadi. So Prabhupada was going there and doing kirtans and trying to somehow or other engage these people who were not really receptive to the Sankirtan mission. Paul was paid an expenditure of $2. Subway and bus fare were 45 cents. The Paragon Book Gallery man, Mr. Max, met. He reported that they are selling the books. Wednesday, May 4th, 1966. Sunrise 4:57, sunset 6:57, moonset 4:51. Purnima, today I went out to search out Sakar, but I was lost in the subway. Expenditure, subway fare 15 cents. Paul paid for expenditure $1, and for his laundry $2. Deposited with the bank $70, and expenditure was $73.15. In the evening, the meeting was held. It was nice. 7 gentlemen attended. Contribution received $6.75. Mr. Carl was very kind to give me over the tape recorder, which is better than the one I've lost. 2 stamps given to Paul. Thursday, May 5th, 1966. Sunrise 4:56, sunset 6:58, moonrise 8:12 p.m. Pratipada. Received 1 redirected letter from Vrindavan. I've already replied to his former letter. He appears to be very much anxious about me always. Paul has paid for expenditure $1. Friday, May 6th, 1966. The days are moving on, just like our lives, every day, every week. Sunrise 4:55 a.m., sunset 6:59 p.m., moonrise 9:23. Dvitya, today I did not go out. Paul was paid for expenditure of $2. In the evening, there was a meeting, and the contribution collected was $5. Okay, I believe that's as far as we're going. Is that far as we're going, Vinkat Bhatt?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. So we're seeing Prabhupada moving forward steadily. I'm just going to read one quick section from Hare Krishna's book about the ashram, just so you have an idea. Is a beautiful, Swami accepts an invitation from Dr. Mishra's Ananda Ashram upstate. Swami was introduced to Ramamurti Mishra soon after arriving in the United States. And Mishra welcomed him and accommodated him in his yoga studio and at the Ananda Ashram. So there were two places where Prabhupada was going. Actually, Mishra was at philosophical loggerheads with Swamiji, with Prabhupada. And he had even requested that the Swamiji not lecture at his, at his yoga studio. Very well done, Vinkat Bhatta. Mishra preached Mayavadi impersonalism. At death, one merges with the absolute and becomes eternally formless. That we were our God school. Over the years, Mishra had managed to print one book on Hatha Yoga and attract a small following. Now, since Mishra is in India, Ananda Ashram, through its good time to invite the controversial Swamiji. The ashram near Monroe, New York, a 2-hour drive from Manhattan, is certainly idyllic. A large white mansion and several small buildings overlook a tranquil mountain lake. We all feel a tinge of envy that we cannot afford such a place for Swamiji, and regret that after the weekend he has to return to the urban squalor of the Lower East Side. So that's excellent that you have this, because we're going to read some other sections from this as we gather more understanding of the great work that Śrīla Prabhupāda undertook in the early years, developing the membership of the Hare Krishna movement. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. We'll move ahead with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, and then we're going to have our wonderful discussion and reading from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the original 1962 versions. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Banadhari Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Founder-Ācārya Jaya Radha Madhava Founder-Ācārya Jaya Muspa Paramahansa Parivrajaga-Acārya Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai Nāma-Acārya Śrī Haridas Thakur ki Jai Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Śrī Advaita Gadadhar Śrīvāsādi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai Śrī Radha Krishna Bhog Gopinath Sam Khand Radha Khand Giri Vardhan ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Navadvip Dham ki Jai Ganga Mai की जाए जमुना माई की जाए द्वारका धाम की जाए स्वामी तो भक्तविंद की जाए और ग्लोरी टू द असम्बली और ग्लोरी टू द असम्बली थैंक यू वेरी मच
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Tato Jayam Mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, after offering respectful obeisances, 1. To the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2. To the Nara-Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being. 3. To the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. Then 4. To Śrīla Vyasadeva, the author. So welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Before we begin the reading of the actual verse for this specific session, we will read a few verses about the importance of hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. This is from Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 17. Shrinvatam svakata Krishnaha punyashravana kirtanaha hridyantasto yabhadrani vidunoti suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, does cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge for hearing his, Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Text number 18. Nashta prayeshu vabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regular attendance in the Bhagavatam class, or rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that is inauspicious in the heart of a candidate becomes destroyed almost to nil, and thus loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, comes into being an irrevocable fact. Text 19. Tadarajastamo bhavaha kamalo bhadayaschaye chetayetera naviddam stitvam sattve prasidati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is fixed up in one's heart, at that time the effects of the nature's mode of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankerings, etc., do disappear from one's heart, and he becomes fixed up in the mode of goodness, which makes him completely happy. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayati. Thus, when one is positively fixed up in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the enlivened-minded man, affected by contact of devotional service of the Lord, can positively know scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. So welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. We are reading from the original 1962 New Delhi edition. Today we'll be reading a few texts from Canto 1, Chapter 3, from text number 6 through 8. Saeva pratamam devaha komaram sargamashritaha chachara dushcharam brahma brahmacharyam makanditam. Sa, that. Eva, certainly. Pratamam, first. Kaumaram, under the names of Kumaras, unmarried. Sargam, creation. Ashritam, under thee. Chachara, perform. Dushcharam, very difficult to do. Brahma, being in the order of Brahman, Brahmacharya, under disciplinary action, being in the order of Brahman. Brahmacharya, under disciplinary action for realizing the absolute Brahman. Akhanditam, unbroken. Translation: the creation of the material world is affected, it is maintained, and then again it is annihilated at certain interval. So there are different names of the creations in terms of particular type of Brahma, the father of the living beings in the creation. These Kumaras, as above mentioned, appeared in the Kumara creation of the material world, and to teach us the process of Brahman realization, they underwent a severe type of disciplinary action as bachelors. These Kumaras are empowered incarnations, and before executing the severe type of disciplinary actions, all of them became qualified Brahmins. This example suggests that one must acquire first the qualifications of the Brahman, not simply by birth, but also in quality, and then one may undergo the process of Brahman realization. Text number 7. Dvitiyam tu bhavayasya rasatalam gatam mahim udarishyam upadatta yagneshaha shokaram vapuhu. Dvitiyam, The second, two, but, bhavaya, for welfare, asya, of this earth, rasatalam, the most downwards, gatam, having gone, mahim, the earth, uddarishyan, lifting up, upadatta, establish, yajnesha, the proprietor or the supreme enjoyer, shokaram, hagish, vapuhu, incarnation. Translation: the supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices accepted the hoggish incarnation as the second in the list, and for the welfare of the earth, he uplifted it from the downwards most part of the universe. Purport by His Divine Grace Śrīla Prabhupāda. The indication is that for each and every incarnation of the personality of Godhead, the particular part of function executed is also mentioned. There cannot be any incarnation without any particular part of function, and such functions are always extraordinary, which are impossible to be done by any living being. The incarnation of Hog was to take out the earth out of the Pluto's region full of filthy matter. To pick up something from the filthy place is done by the Hog, and the all-powerful personality of Godhead played the wonder to the Asuras who hid the earth in such filthy place. There is nothing impossible for him, and although the personality of Godhead played the part of a hog, still by the devotees is worship staying always in transcendence. Text number 8. Tritiyam rishi sargam vai devarishi tvamupityasa tantram sattvatamachashta neshkarmyam karmanam jataha. Tritiyam, the third one. Rishi sargam, the millennium of the Rishi. Vai, certainly. Deva Rishi Tvam, incarnation of the Rishi amongst the demigods. Upetya, having been got up. Sa, he. Tantram, exposition of the Vedas. Sattvatam, which is specially meant for devotional service. Achashta, collected. Neskarmam, non-fruitive. Karmanam, of work. Jataha, from which. Translation: the third empowered incarnation in the form of Devarishi Narada, who is a great sage amongst the demigods, was accepted by the personality of Godhead in the millennium of Rishi. He made the collection of exposition of the Vedas in the matter of devotional service, which causes non-fruitive actions on the activities of man. Purport: the great Rishi Narada, who is an empowered incarnation of the personality of Godhead, propagates all over the universe in the matter of devotional service of the Lord. All great devotees of the Lord all over the universe and in different planets and species of life are his disciples. Śrīla Vyasadeva, the compiler of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, is also one of his disciples, is the author of Narada Pancharatra, which is the exposition of the Vedas, particularly for devotional service of the Lord. This Narada Pancharatra trains the karmis or the fruitive workers to achieve liberation from the bondage of fruitive work. The conditioned souls are mostly attracted by the fruitive work because they want to enjoy life by the sweat of their own brow. The whole universe is full of fruitive workers in all species of life. The fruitive works include all kinds of economic development plans. But the law of nature provides that every action has its resultant reaction, and the performer of the work is bound up by such reactions, good or bad. The reaction of good work is comparatively material prosperity, whereas the reaction of bad work is comparatively material distress. But material conditions, either in so-called happiness or so-called distress, all are meant factually for distress only at the ultimate issue. Foolish materialist has no information how to obtain eternal happiness in unconditional state. Sri Narada Pancharatra gives treatment to these fully fruitive workers for realizing the reality of happiness. He gives direction to the diseased men of the world how one's present engagement can lead one to the path of spiritual emancipation. The physician gives direction to the patient to take treated milk in the form of curd for his suffering from indigestion due to his taking another milk preparation. So the cause of the disease and the remedy of the disease may be the same thing, but it must be treated by the expert physician like Narada to kill the material disease. The Bhagavad Gita also gives the same solution for serving the Lord by the fruits of one's labor. That will lead one to the path of Nishkarma, or liberation. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto our spiritual master, Śrīla Prabhupāda, who has opened my eyes, who has opened our eyes from the darkness of ignorance with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shwanyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshataham Adadana Strinam Dante Ridam Yachi Punaha Punaham Śrīmad Padam Bhoja Dhulishyam Janma Janmani Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So now we are starting to read the description of the incarnations. This third chapter of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is very important. Why? Because we will see later on in the description of the incarnations how Sutta Goswami describes Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. ete cha skalampumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Now we have all read, we are still studying Bhagavad Gita. Every day we read that Krishna declares that he is the supreme person, that there's no higher truth than himself. Krishna emphatically and very clearly describes in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 7, text 7, Mattaha parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mayi sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva. There is no truth superior to Krishna. Everything is resting upon me, just like pearls on a thread. Just like sometimes we see ladies will wear a pearl necklace. Now these pearls are resting upon a thread. If the thread is cut, then the pearls will fall off. So this entire world is resting, is depending upon Krishna through his multifarious expansions and incarnations. So these descriptions are very important because it helps one to understand the greatness of Krishna. We have all seen in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, how Krishna describes so many different opulent situations in the material world. And he's explaining that everything is a manifestation from him. Everything comes from him. So here in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Sutta Goswami is describing nicely to the assembled rishis and great sages at Naimisharanya, the first incarnation, the 4 Kumaras. So these 4 Kumaras are very, very important. Why? Because they're also the founders of one of the original Vedic Vaishnava Sampradayas, meaning that these 4 Kumaras are one of the authorized parties of spiritual understanding. There is a letter from Śrīla Prabhupāda on February 13th, 1968, February 13th, 1968, where he describes there are 4 sampradayas from the beginning of the creation. One is called Brahma Sampradaya and is coming down by disciplic succession from Brahma. Another Sampradaya is coming down from Lakshmi, called Sri Sampradaya. Another is coming down from the Kumaras, and they are known as Nimbarka Sampradaya. Another Sampradaya is coming from Lord Shiva, Rudra Sampradaya or Vishnu Swami. These are 4 bona fide sampradayas that are accepted by the bona fide spiritualist. The impersonalist sampradaya is not original, neither the impersonalist sampradaya or party can help us. At the present moment, there are so many sampradayas, but we have to test them about their method of disciplic understanding. Anyway, all of the 4 sampradayas above mentioned, they are after worshiping the Supreme Lord Vishnu in his different expansions. And some of them are in favor of worshiping Radha Krishna. In the later age, the Brahma Sampradaya was handed down through Madhvacharya. In this Madhvacharya disciplic succession came Ishwarapuri. This Ishwarapuri was accepted as spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya. Therefore, we, being in disciplic succession from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we are known as Madhva Sampradaya. And because Lord Chaitanya appeared in Bengal, which country is called Gauda Desha, our Sampradaya party is known as Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. But all these Sampradayas are non-different from one another because they believe and worship the Supreme Lord. Any other Sampradaya who are impersonalist or voidist are non-devotee. they are rejected by us. My Guru Maharaj was in the 10th generation from Lord Chaitanya. We are 11th from Lord Chaitanya. The disciplic succession is as follows. 1. Sri Krishna. 2. Brahma. 3. Narada. 4. Vyasa. 5. Madhva. 6. Padmanabha. 7. Nrihari. 8. Madhava. 9. Akshobhya. 10. Jayatirtha. 11. Jnanasindhu. 12. Purushottama. 13. Vidyanidhi. 14. Rajendra. 15. Jayadharma. 16. Purushottama. 17. Vyasatirtha. 18. Lakshmipati. 19. Madhavendra Puri. 20. Ishwarapuri Advaita Nityananda. 21. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 22. Swarup Sanatana Rupa. 23. Jiva Raghunatha. 24. Krishna Dasa. 25. Narottama. 26. Vishwanatha. 27. Baladeva Jagannatha. 28. Bhaktivinod Gaurakishora. 29. Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Shri Varshabhanavi Dayita Dasa. 30. Shri Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So this is a very important point, because to become a devotee means we have to understand the disciplic section and accept the prominent acharya in the sampradaya. There is a letter where devotees raise the issue if there are any gaps in the disciplic succession. And Prabhupada explained that what we have to do is understand what is the disciplic succession. We have to pick up the prominent acharya and follow him. In our current times, the prominent acharya is His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. That is the current acharya, the current link for all the devotees. Here we also see that Sutta Goswami is describing in text number 7 the avatar of the Prabhupada called the Hoggish incarnation of hog. Now, sometimes persons have a misconception that God cannot do this or God cannot do that, particularly some fanatical members of other faiths or other sects. But we see that in the Vedas, God is empowered. In the Ishopanishad, God, Krishna, is described as apapavidam, that is completely pure, that there's no fault or no sin that can attach to God. He is always transcendental, whether in the body of a hog or in the body of a tortoise or in any body that he chooses to incarnate. Sometimes there's a misconception that they say, oh, the Hindus, they worship many gods. There is no such thing as many gods. There's only one God, just like in the universe, there's only one sun. A person cannot say, well, I got the Christian sun or the Muslim sun or the Jewish sun or the Buddhist sun or the Hindu sun. No. There's only one sun that illuminates the entire universe. Similarly, there's only one God, and depend according to time, place, and circumstance, he comes down. Why does he come down? What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanira bhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. That whenever there is a discrepancy in the matter of religious principles, Krishna says, at that time I come. Okay, so what does he do when he's here? Paritranaya sadhunam. To protect the pious, protect the devotees, vinashaya chadushkritam, and to kill the miscreants, the demons. Now in Kali Yuga, Krishna has come in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared in the land of Bengal in Navadvip in 1486 AD. Now, this incarnation is very special. We've been reading on Wednesday nights the exalted position of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and now Krishna Das Kaviraj, the author of the beautiful Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, has given so many Vedic evidences to establish the divinity of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, from the Mahabharata, from the Ananta Samhita, from various Puranas, explaining when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would be born, where he would be born, what would be his activities, who would be his associates. So this is very important, because we see that in the beginning of the universe, there was one big demon, the brother of Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha. Hiranyaksha was a very powerful demon who wanted somebody to fight with. So he picked a fight with Lord Vishnu, who came in the form of a boar, of a hog. Lord Varaha lifted the earth which had fallen into the Garbhodak ocean, the ocean in the bottom part of the universe. Now somebody may raise objection, well, how can God take a birth in the form of a hog? Well, that's his prerogative. He can do whatever it takes to effect the purpose and to protect the devotees. Paritranaya sadhunam. In this particular case, he also had a big fight. Just like sometimes I hear that there are some TV channels, I don't go to that, but somebody was telling me that they have these boxing, but it's a new type of fighting. I don't know what they call it, MA something fighting, where they fight with no restriction, all kinds of crazy nonsense things. And it's become very popular, because that tendency to fight is also there with Krishna. So when Krishna fights, he has to have a suitable opponents. Just like in the material world, they will arrange fighting according to different classifications, different weight classes. It is not that a 12-year-old is going to fight with a world champion. It is not that a person who weighs 120 pounds is going to fight with somebody who is a heavyweight. That doesn't work like that. So they have different classifications. Similarly, when God wants to fight, when Krishna wants to fight, there's a special classification. It has to be somebody who is qualified to fight with him. So Krishna arranged that this Hiranyaksha, who was very boastful, we will see in the third canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam how this Hiranyaksha challenged Varaha. He challenged him to fight. He thought that he was the most powerful person in the universe. And Lord Varaha took him on. And all the demigods and the higher planets were watching this, like, what is going on here? This is very serious. Very serious. Just like sometimes in this world, when there's a major big fight with some popular person, boxer or whatever, people, they all want to see, oh, what would happen? What will this big fight, what will be the outcome? So this fight was such a big fight that all the denizens, the devatas, in the higher part of the universe, in Svarga, they all wanted to watch this fight between Hiranyaksha and Lord Varahadev. And Lord Varahadev obviously defeated Hiranyaksha. So this is a very important situation to understand the nature, the transcendental nature of this incarnation. The Lord Varaha is always transcendental. We see in the Bhagavad Gita how Krishna explains in so many places that he is always transcendental, always unaffected by the modes of nature. If we make a careful study of Śrīla Prabhupāda's books and Bhagavatam, we see that in so many places, His Divine Grace has quoted from various Puranas, various Samhitas, various Vedic literatures to explain the exalted position of Krishna, it has always come to the conclusion that Krishna is never affected by the material energy, and his incarnations are never affected. This is important to understand, because sometimes the materialistic people will say, they will try to poke their nose in literature such as Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam or the Vedas, and they cannot understand, oh, why Krishna does this, why Krishna does that. We had an interesting situation when we first went to Bangalore in 1972. We were living in a place close to Gandhinagar, and one very nice gentleman had provided us a little house and a place to cook and things. So one day some Pandit came there, and he had some Sanskrit book, and he's coming there in a very challenging mood. So this Guru Kripa Swami was there, I was there. So this Pandit started to criticize Krishna, saying, oh, Krishna told Maharaj Yudhishthira to lie, Krishna danced with the gopis, Krishna did this, Krishna did that. So many nonsense accusations. So before he could even finish, Guru Kripa Swami Guru Kripa defeated his nonsense arguments with so many quotes from Brahma Samhita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Bhagavad Gita. So later on, when we saw Śrīla Prabhupāda in October of 1972 in Vrindavan, we presented to Śrīla Prabhupāda what happened at that incident. So Prabhupada says, yes, that is one good way, but the best way to answer this is like this. You cannot understand Krishna's activities unless you first understand who is Krishna. Who is that personality, Krishna? And you answer him like this. Prabhupada quoted from the Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, text 1, Ishvaraha Parama Krishna. Then he quoted that verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 7, Matta Parataram Nanyat. Then he quoted from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text number 8, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. And Prabhupada said, you quote him like that, and you say, unless you accept Krishna like that, you can never understand his activities. So all this so-called nonsense criticism is all rascaldom. All rascaldom. Just like even in the material world we see, in order to see the president or the chief head of a state, you just cannot walk in and say, I want to see him. And they say, what is your business here, sir? Why do you want to see him? What is your position? Who are you? Who do you represent? So in this way, to understand Krishna, one has to become a devotee of Krishna. Just like we were reading recently in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, Krishna is describing to Arjuna that I'm describing to you this Bhagavad Gita, anasuyave, because you are not envious. Those who are envious of Krishna or his pure devotee or pure devotees, they have no entrance into the sacred teachings of Krishna. Although they may try, but we see they commit so many blunders. That is why devotees are being told by Rupa Goswami, Shruti Sriti Puranadi Pancharatagiri Vidim Vina Ekantiki Hare Bhaktir Utpatayeva Kalpate. That bhakti, which does not conform, which does not follow the Shruti, the Smriti, the Puranas, and Pancharatras, it will simply create utpat. Utpat means chaos, disturbance in human society, and also in devotional society. So one has to be very careful how to understand these teachings. These teachings are very sacred. On one hand, they are open. On the other hand, they are secret. Why are they secret? Because they're not for the envious, envious, and the malicious. Just like this week, we were discussing Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we were explaining that in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, in the first canto and the first chapter, Vyasadeva explains, Dharma prajita kaitava, atra parama nirmatsaranam satam, that the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam kicks out all motivated so-called religions. All cheating religions are kicked out from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. It is meant for those who are nirmatsaranam. What is that? Non-envious. Just like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that I'm revealing to you this science, Arjuna, because you are not envious of me. So those who practice so-called bhakti for self-promotion, self-aggrandizement, for love, puja pratishta, for name, fame, power, position, prestige, money-making, so many nonsense. That kind of bhakti will simply create problems for themselves and for others. Because the path of bhakti has been given in our sampradaya by none other than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu has clearly explained in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, in his Shikshastakam, how to practice this bhakti. The first point is you have to chant Hare Krishna, this beautiful Mahamantra. Well, how to do that? So many people chant Hare Krishna. We once went to a ashram in Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu, and there was a group of Mayavadi sannyasis. They're all having kirtan, chanting Hare Krishna. So when we had a discussion with these people, asking them, well, what is the meaning of that chanting? None of them could explain anything intelligently, although some of them were highly educated. Some of them were Sanskrit Shastris, Sanskrit scholars, very learned. They had studied the Upanishads, Vedanta, so many things. Some of them knew several languages. We asked them, what is the meaning of this mantra? Who gave this mantra? How did this mantra come about? What is the proper way of chanting this mantra? None of them could explain properly. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains, Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi saishnuna, that one should be humbler than a blade of grass and be very tolerant. Not that because one has become a devotee, he should become puffed up and arrogant, that he's special and he deserves respect and he deserves, I'm a senior devotee, all this nonsense. We see that the author of this Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, has written in his famous book that he thinks himself to be lower than the worm in the stool. Now this is the highest devotee, one of the highest devotees in our sampradaya, a personal associate of Lord Nityananda, very, very high devotee, and he thinks himself the lowest devotee. Those of you who have read Bhaktivedanta Thakur's song called Gopinath, in this song, Gopinath, Bhaktivedanta Thakur is expressing himself that I'm the lowest, I'm a sinner, I'm unqualified, I'm materialistic, so many ways that he's explaining himself a very low. But Bhaktivedanta Thakur is the energy of Lord Chaitanya, very powerful Acharya. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Sachidananda Gora Shakti Swarupaya. Gora Shakti, the energy of Lord Chaitanya, who was sent here to revive Gaudiya Vaishnavism. But he thinks himself the lowest devotee. Those who are familiar with the teachings of King Kulashekar, he wrote that book, Mukunda Malastotra, and he's expressing himself. Masjanmana phalamidam maduketa bari mat prartaniya madanugraha esha eva tvad britya britya paricharaka britya britya brityasya britya iti mam smaralokanata. He is addressing Krishna, O Krishna, killer of the Madhu and Kaitava demon, O Lord of the universe, kindly grant me one favor. That is my humble prayer to you, that you kindly let me be the servant of your servant of your servant. He says it 7 times. Highest devotee thinks himself the lowest devotee. And the most arrogant devotees, they think themselves the biggest devotees. Just see. That's why we have to carefully study all these writings, these songs of the Acharyas. Prabhupada's books have to be studied very, very carefully, in detail, Every word, every sentence, every translation, every synonym, we should get ourselves familiar with it. Very important task. Very important point. Anyway, I'll shut up now. Let some more intelligent devotees make comments. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, for your expert explanation of this verse or verses of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam for everyone's benefit at the class here today. And I wanted to refer Prabhu back to text 8 because it gives us real insight into the situation that either we're in or the people that surround us are in terms of fruitive work. Because everyone, Prabhupada refers to the fact that everyone in the universe, in all species of life, are busy with fruitive work. So just at the bottom of the verse there, Bhatta Prabhu, sorry. He made the collection of exposition of the Vedas in the matter of devotional service, which causes non-fruitive action on the activities of the man, non-fruitive action. And then down in the purport, the conditioned souls are mostly attracted by the fruit of work because they want to enjoy life by the sweat of their own brow. The whole universe is full of fruitive workers in all species of life. So this is the situation that we're all either have been involved in, or depending on our circumstances and our commitment to the mission of Lord Chaitanya, we may not be involved with. But this is something we should be aware of. I think that many of you are associating with karmis, and that's all they talk about is fruitive action. I'm going to make money today. I've got this plan to put up this movie. I've got this plan to build this building. I've got this plan to get real estate. I've got this plan to do financing. It's just one constant discussion on fruitive activity. I know we all may be somewhat victimized by it. I know I certainly was in my work as a grihasta years ago. So we'll go back to the purport here because the solution is given here by Prabhupada at the end of the purport. He gives direction to the diseased men of the world, how one's present engagement can lead one to the path of spiritual emancipation. The physician gives direction to the patient to take treated milk in the form of curd for his sufferings from indigestion due to his taking another milk preparation. So the cause of the disease and the remedy of the disease may be the same thing, but it must be treated by the expert physician like Narada to kill the material disease. The Bhagavad Gita also gives the same solution for serving the Lord by the fruits of one's labor. This will lead one to the path of Naishkarma or liberation. So Prabhupada also gives the example of electricity, that you can use electricity to heat or you can use it to cool, depending on what device you're using. So in the same way, the material world can be a source of liberation for all of us, or it can be a source of bewilderment and difficulty, depending on how it's used. I wanted to Yaśodā Prabhu, just before we have you come back to the discussion, I wanted to go to a letter that Prabhupada sent to Hayagriva in August 29th, 1967. So Hayagriva is having a conversation with Prabhupada. He's telling him what he's going to be doing. And Prabhupada writes back a very profound explanation of how we should all see ourselves in terms of how to conduct ourselves in this journey in time. Hayagriva goes, considering a teaching job, again to earn money for passage to India, I write Swamiji for advice. And in early September, received this reply. My first letter from Vrindavan, he writes. It is postmarked August 29th, 1967. Radha Damodar Temple, Shaiva Kunj, Vrindavan, Mathura, UP, India. I'm very glad to receive your letter, first letter to me in India, he writes. So far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, please complete it as soon as possible. It must be published now, either by a publisher or by ourselves. The same message, complete it, publish. Although I'm practically on the path of death. So Prabhupada stressing the urgency. The letter continues. Regarding separation, you must know that I'm also feeling that way, and it is all Krishna's design that we cannot separate anymore. In the transcendental field, the feeling of separation is more valuable than the feeling of meeting. Vani Vapu, remember this, everyone. Physically, I'm trying to go back to your states as soon as possible. I have a fancy for your country, and being inspired by that, I first went to your country, and still I feel that way. I am improving, although slowly, but I am eating and sleeping better than in New York. And here comes the critical part of the letter. Regarding your speculation as to accepting a teaching position, a fruitive worker, Krishna wants everyone to utilize his talent as far as possible. Arjuna was a great fighter, and Krishna engaged him to fight. He never said, you sit down and I shall do it for you, although he was able to. No, we must utilize our talents for the service of the Lord. This is real sannyas. Formal acceptance of sannyas as required for all old men means that one should retire from materialistic life and devote his time and energy to the Lord's service. As you are devoted already to his service without any personal consideration, you are always sannyas at heart. A teacher's position is always influential, so your sincere efforts for kirtan may be followed by some of your students and co-workers. At the same time, your good editorial work will also continue, so I think you should accept a position. So here, this gives us an insight in how to engage ourselves in a daily routine of service, devotional service. This is the goal of the Prabhupada Disciples Association, is to help revive the position of Śrīla Prabhupada and his disciples in the service of the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya properly. This is key. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, please.
Well, this is a very important point, because we see that when Prabhupada was preaching, different students at different time came with so many different misconceptions, misunderstandings. Of course, given the background that people came from, that was understandable. But Prabhupada very nicely described all the way from when he was in Jhansi with the League of Devotees. He was constantly stressing the bona fide disciplic succession. Now, this is a very important point, because we see that so many devotees will go shopping. They go shopping to try to get some new angle or new understanding or some kind of what they consider to be higher teachings, and they get confused. They get confused. Prabhupada has written so many letters giving very clear instruction of how our disciplic session has come about, what are the teachings, what is the proper understanding, and to stick to his presentation. Because even in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, there are so many persons, according to Bhaktivedanta Thakur, that are not following the exact line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although they claim to do so. Bhaktivedanta Thakur has identified 13 apasampradayas, or deviated lines of so-called disciplic succession. So this is a very important point, because people should study this very carefully, very, very carefully. Now I see that we have a question somebody is asking. I've visited the Radha Shyama Sundar temple in Vrindavan. This is from Robert, Dr. Robert. There is a wall with the sampradayas listed, and it states that Gaudiya Sampradaya is fifth sampradaya, different from Madhva Sampradaya, also highlighting that they are not connected. What are the reason of this, and also what is the effect? Well, that is technically not correct. The Gaudiya Sampradaya is connected through Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri accepted Lakshmi Patitirtha as his spiritual master, who was a Vaishnava sannyasi in the line of Madhvacharya. So although we have a distinct separate commentary on Vedanta Sutra, still we are connected. Bhaktivedanta Thakur, in one of his writings, raises the issue, why is it that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the Madhva Sampradaya? Because we see that there are other Sampradayas, the Nimbarka Sampradaya, the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, the Rudra Sampradaya. But we see from the writings of Kavi Karnapur, one of the direct associates of Lord Chaitanya, he has written in his writings, given the list of disciplic succession, and he does mention that Madhavendra Puri accepted Lakshmi Patitirtha, and Madhavendra Puri in our disciplic succession was the first Acharya who promoted the Madhurya Rasa, or the highest stage of rasa. So this is a very important point, because we see that Baladev Vidyabhushana also has given that list of disciplic succession, the same list that Kavi Karnapur has given in his Prameya Ratnavali, because this was an issue that came up when he was challenged by the Ramanandis near Galta, near Jaipur, that you Gaudiya Vaishnavas are claiming to be a bona fide Vaishnava Sampradaya, but you don't have your own commentary on Vedanta Sutra. So either you should accept Madhva's commentary or present your own commentary. So Baladev Vidyabhushana says, yes, I will present you a commentary. So he went before the deity of Lord Govinda, Radha Govinda in Jaipur, and prayed to Radha Govinda, and he wrote a Vedanta Sutra commentary in a few weeks. Usually that takes years or many, many months. It is so complex. It is not so easy to start writing a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. So he went there and he defeated the various proponents, because they had gone to the king and said, well, why are these Gaudiya Vaishnavas worshiping Krishna before Narayana? Why are they doing that? This is not acceptable. So they challenged, and Vishwanath Chakravarti deputed Baladev Vidyabhushana and another Gaudiya Vaishnava named Krishna Das, great Sanskrit scholars, to go there and take care of this. So Baladev Vidyabhushana wrote his commentary called Govinda Bhashya, the purport of Lord Govinda, revealed by Lord Govinda. So we're technically associated and affiliated with the Madhva Sampradaya. At the same time, we have a distant understanding, a distinct philosophy called Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva. If you look through any of the search engine and you put the name Baladev Vidyabhushana or Achintya Bheda Bheda, you will see there are so many references by Śrīla Prabhupada explaining that. But Śrīla Prabhupada also mentions in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that we are very grateful to both Madhva and Ramanuja for defeating the proponents of the Mayavadi philosophy, the impersonalist followers of Shankaracharya. So this is a very important point. Devotees can get familiar with this. This is all described by Śrīla Prabhupada in various purports and various conversations. But this is a very good question that has been raised. But it is technically different and non-different. But we are affiliated with the Madhva Sampradaya. At the same time, we have a distinct philosophy. I've also posted a letter there where Śrīla Prabhupada explains how we have to pick up the prominent acharyas. It's actually the letter acharya singular, and follow from him. There are many branches also from the parampara system, and it is not possible to record all the branches and sub-branches in a disciplic succession. We have to pick up from the authority of the acharya in whatever sampradaya we belong to. So in our situation, we accept Śrīla Prabhupada as the prominent acharya and promote that. For others who have got some other ideas, maybe they can explain how they've arrived at their so-called conclusions or so-called appointments or voting system. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I wanted to ask you a question, Yaśodā Prabhu, in regards to this new system of elected gurus. Are they authorized in any shape or form to accept disciples? And are these disciples of these elected gurus actually connected to the disciplic succession?
Well, I guess the question, they would answer that question by saying, would Prabhupada authorize a GBC body to manage the affairs of ISKCON, and the GC body in 1978 authorized these people to act as Diksha gurus. The problem with that interpretation is that it conflicts with the historical reality of what they claimed at that time. What they claimed at the time is they had been appointed by Prabhupada as successor initiating gurus or Diksha gurus. Now, many people have been discussing these issues for the last 46 years, and I don't think that anybody has been able to prove or conclusively establish when, where, and how they were ever appointed as Diksha gurus or successor acharyas. But it's been conclusively established by record and documentation how in 1977, Śrīla Prabhupada nominated and selected various individuals to continue the process of initiation with Ritvik representatives. Now, they may protest and say, oh, no one ever did that. Well, somebody did. Between 1971 and 1977, His Divine Grace Śrīla Prabhupada did. It's a matter of accepting the orders of the spiritual master. It's not very complicated. And here's the example. If you study Chaitanya Charitamrita, although somebody may not know Bengali, somebody may know the translation from Śrīla Prabhupada that Krishnadas Kaviraj explains in his writing of Chaitanya Charitamrita that the order of the spiritual master is very strong and no one can disobey the order of the guru. And he gave the example of Parashuram. What happened is Parashuram's father had told Parashuram's mother to go get some water at the river. And somewhere or other, Parashuram's mother had lusted over a Gandharva that was there at the river. And Parashuram's father told him, you need to kill your mother. That was the order of Parashuram's father. You need to kill your mother. So Parashuram killed his mother, and then he asked his father for a blessing to revive her, to give her life again. And Krishnadas Kaviraj gives this example that following the order of the spiritual master is very strong and cannot be disobeyed. Now, as we are very familiar with Prabhupada's purports in the Adi Leela, chapter 12, where Prabhupada describes what happened to the Gaudiya Math institution over this exact same issue. This exact same issue of succession, who's going to be Acharya, who's going to be the living guru, all of these various propositions. Now, we're not trying to accuse anybody or find fault with anybody or blaspheme anybody. What we're interested in is fact-finding. what happened to that institution, and why did Prabhupada put these purports in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and in various conversations and letters, such as the letter to yourself, Vishwakarma, in October of 1975, a letter to one GBC in 28th of April 1974, where Śrīla Prabhupada described very clearly and analyzed the whole breakdown of the Gaudiya Math, because of disobeyed the order of the spiritual master. We had the same thing in our society. Prabhupada gave him specific instruction how he wanted it. Somewhere rather that was put in writing, that was concealed, that was suppressed, and no discussion ever took place amongst all the temple presidents, all the sannyasis, and all the devotees in March of 1978 at Mayapur, Bengal, India, about this issue. They claim, oh, we discussed it, whatever. No, you did not. The original transcript of the May 28th conversation was not available for 11 years, the complete, total, non-adulterated transcript. It was suppressed. Discussion was suppressed. As a matter of fact, one GBC made a statement, there is nothing to be discussed. We have already discussed everything. They should just accept. And one devotee brought to the attention of that GBC that many of Prabhupada's disciples were very concerned about the way that their so-called new guru system was being introduced. This person laughed. He says, let them all leave. We've got our own disciples now. So this whole incident has been discussed so many times. This so-called appointment conversation that doesn't appoint anybody. As a matter of fact, there's no names mentioned in that conversation. And every time Prabhupada said, oh, Prabhupada said they're going to be guru, disciple of my disciple. No, this is not what Prabhupada said. Prabhupada said, when I order, then you become. Well, the question comes, an intelligent person will ask, when was this order ever given? In 1977. Nowhere. It was not. The only order that was given is for these people to act as representatives, just like they were doing during Prabhupada's presence, with the disciples being Śrīla Prabhupada's disciples, them acting as representative, as a service to the society. But instead, we were presented a fairy tale. Oh, the appointed successors, the chosen ones, all of this nonsense that they went and confirmed their so-called understanding with the help of various members of various neo-mats who fertile muddied the whole issue with philosophies that put on the uniform of the guru and it's going to tell you what to do. This was not Śrīla Prabhupada's presentation. This was not Prabhupada's order. Prabhupada wanted to avoid the mistake of what took place at that point in time, 35 years earlier in the Gaudiya Math. That's why he only nominated officiating representatives. And for those who don't accept that, we can point out to the historical reality of what has happened. Now, this is a very complicated thing because there is a lot of people with so many endless arguments about living in physical this and that I keep repeating on these classes. Śrīla Prabhupada begins his Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. He lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. We have no such thing as guru is dead philosophy. That is nonsense. That is atheistic nonsense. Prabhupada set up a society, everything was lined up, everything was organized. Simply what they have to do is follow the instruction. I see there's another comment. The first time we got the will, when someone stole it from Hamsudutta's safe in 1985 and gave it to me, that refers to Puranjan Das, and Sulochan got the appointment tape also in 1985. So the point is, why were these discussions suppressed? Why the members of the society were not fully informed of all of these different conversations? There are so many mysteries and so many unanswered questions that the proponents of this false, illusory appointment have to answer. Anyway, I'll leave it that for now, and
Okay.
we can go on with further discussion. Hare Krishna.
I wanted to go to that letter in a minute, Vinkat, that you're referring to on this anniversary date of July 9th. But I wanted to further explain to our group that this type of propaganda war goes on in many circles, whether it's political or is spiritual. It's now known as what's called fake news. And by a compromised position based on personal gain and motive, people come together. In other words, through sectarianism, people sometimes remain united for their own personal narcissistic behavior. And we've seen this practically in real life in this journey that we've been a part of in the former movement that we were members of, which is based on sectarianism. There is no unity there. There is only unity based on deviation. And they perpetrate a philosophy that is based on personal ambition, profit, adoration, and distinction. We all know that, right, Prabhu? We do know it. We've experienced it. We've seen it, where people are being used by these people for their own personal gain. This is not the Krishna Consciousness movement that Prabhupada set up. And our goal here is to reestablish the mission based on his position as the pure devotee. This word Ritvik, that's the our god brother Hridayananda called it Rikvidism, something like that. It's some kind of, this is completely offensive. He is completely offensive. And his whole gang of fraudsters have distorted the whole mission of Lord Chaitanya and Śrīla Prabhupāda with their personal goals. Now, Vinkat, could you please show us that letter from July 9th, 1977, and maybe you could read it out for us, please.
Okay. So
I did receive this letter, actually. Go ahead, please.
Letter to all GBC and all temple presidents. Dear Maharajas and Prabhus, please accept humble obeisances at your... Recently, when all the GBC members were with His Divine Grace in Vrindavan, Śrīla Prabhupāda indicated that soon he would appoint some of his senior disciples to act as Ritvik, representative of the Acharya, for the purpose of performing initiations, both first initiation and second initiation. His Divine Grace has so far given a list of 11 disciples who will act in that capacity. So there's Kirtananda Swami, Satsvarup Das Goswami, Jaipatak Swami, Tamal Krishna Goswami, Hridyananda Goswami, Bhavananda Goswami, Hansaduta Swami, Rameshwar Swami, Harikesh Swami, Bhagwan Das Adhikari, Jaitirtha Das Adhikari. In the past, temple presidents have written to Śrīla Prabhupada recommending a particular devotee's initiation. Now that Śrīla Prabhupada has named these representatives, temple presidents may henceforward send recommendation for first and second initiation to whichever of these 11 representatives are nearest their temple. After considering the recommendation, these representatives may accept the devotee as an initiated disciple of Śrīla Prabhupada by giving a spiritual name, or in the case of second initiation, by chanting on the Gayatri thread, just as Śrīla Prabhupada has done. The newly initiated disciples are disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, the above 11 senior devotees acting as his representative. After the temple president receives a letter from these representatives giving the spiritual name or the thread, he can perform the fire yajna in the temple as was being done before. The name of a newly initiated disciple should be sent by the representative who has accepted him or her to Śrīla Prabhupāda to be included in His Divine Grace's Initiated Disciples book. Hoping this finds you all well. Your servant, Tamal Krishna Goswami, Secretary to Śrīla Prabhupāda. And it's also approved by Śrīla Prabhupāda with his signature.
Yes. So the letter speaks for itself. I did personally receive the letter myself, and it clearly indicated that everyone was acting as a representative of Śrīla Prabhupada, not Acharya. We're seeing this going on. This whole thing, you can look at it from this angle, that angle, up and down, all around. It's all fake news. Don't be confused, everyone, by the fake news that comes from these people that are motivated for personal glory. This is a big mistake. So, Yaśodā-nandana, please, if you could
to come back
finish
to
this
come
up.
back to the original point that you raised about this elected system.
Yes.
This elected system started after some devotees in the early 1980s complained that the 11 had formed an Acharya board, which was basically a monopoly within the GBC to decide everything amongst themselves about how everything should be conducted. Because it should be remembered that after the Mayapur festival in March of 1978, within a few months, so many aspects of Prabhupada's program were changed, were adulterated. The morning program, the Mangal Artik, the Puru Puja, pictures on the altar, mantras, titles, so many concoctions were added to the practices of the society, like the kirtan, the obeisances, the artik, and eventually they changed the method of offering bhoga to Prabhupada and the deities. All on the basis of this living guru concoction. The living guru is already there. Śrīla Prabhupada is still living through his instruction, always. The minute that the leaders of the society started to preach that Prabhupada is not available, or they claim officially, oh yes, Prabhupada is available, but then they want to emphasize their physicality. So which is which? Are we going to emphasize Prabhupada as the Acharya or your physicality as the Acharya? I mean, Prabhupada, during his manifested presence, had a specific way of having initiations. He did not personally conduct every initiation in his movement. Temple presidents were assigned, and different devotees such as Rebhatinandan Swami, Kirtanananda Swami were assigned to chant on beads and give new names, and Prabhupada would give authorization for the temple president to do a fire sacrifice, or sannyasi or senior representative. Prabhupada delegated everything to representative. All he was doing in 1977 is continuing what he had been doing for 6-7 years earlier. Now they will claim, oh, we just accept Prabhupada as a Shiksha Guru. Well, what is your idea of a Diksha? What is the meaning of Diksha or initiation? How does Prabhupada define initiation? It's not just a fire sacrifice. It's a process. Prabhupada in his books in numerous places has described the process of initiation as a systematic process of following the rules, the regulations, the program for at least 6 months under the supervision of the temple president. They would be recommended by the temple president. They would be approved by Prabhupada. The fire sacrifice was just the confirmation of that process. Now, when people received that instruction from Śrīla Prabhupada, if their idea was that they were going to be Prabhupada successors and Diksha Gurus, why is it nowhere visible in any of the subsequent conversations or letters from Śrīla Prabhupada, or other letters that were sent to various people? On the 19th of July, Prabhupada said that continue to become a Ritvik and act on my charge. On the 18th of October, Prabhupada, his name was on the list, I've deputed my disciples. Prabhupada was very clear about everything. Why would there be confusion about this? If Prabhupada intended to appoint 1 successor or 11 successors or 1,000 successors, why is it that nobody can produce that evidence? There's no record of it. In 1969, when Prabhupada was discussing some alliance with the Chaitanya mission in India with one of his godbrothers, there was a letter where Prabhupada specifically raised, he says, I see that in your bylaws that the Acharya can appoint his Acharya successor in writing. And Prabhupada says, there is no record of our Guru Maharaj ever appointing any Acharya after him. So this is a very important point. Where is the record of this so-called appointment? Nobody has been able to produce. It's all propaganda. It's like you said, fake news. That's why they suppressed the discussion in the beginning. When we were trying to find out what Śrīla Prabhupada actually said, then there's a wave of accusations that come up. Oh, you're not surrendered, you're doubtful, and then you're envious, you're a rascal, you're against ISKCON, and get to the point that people threaten to physically break people's bones and assassinate them. As a matter of fact, one devotee, Solochan, was assassinated and killed over this exact same issue. Why did they not discuss it in 1978 in front of everybody and bring that so-called appointment tape and play it? Because they knew that tape doesn't prove any appointment. As a matter of fact, anybody who knows the history of these controversies knows that Tamal Krishna Swami, the leader of that campaign for this appointment propaganda, admitted on December 3rd, 1980 in Topanga Canyon, California, he admitted, because he had been suspended by the GBC after he had been preaching that no one can understand Prabhupada except through me. The GBC suspended him, along with another so-called guru in England, another guru in Berkeley, California. Tamal admitted there was no appointment. Prabhupada did not appoint any guru. It's a myth. ISKCON is very attached to its mythology propaganda. The reality is this is not what Prabhupada did, and the result is all the division, the sectarianism, and the nonsense that has gone on. If anybody wants proof, you can discuss the history of these Origin 11, blow for blow, and ask yourself the question. Take your Bhagavad Gita, look at the list of the Acharyas in the Disciplic session, and start asking questions. Have we ever had child molesters, embezzlers, sexual deviants, sexual perverts, criminals in the Disciplic succession? Do you mean to say that Prabhupada made a mistake of appointing or selecting individuals who were not qualified? Did Krishna also make a mistake of telling his pure devotee Prabhupada to choose individuals who were not fit or qualified to be acharyas? There are many ramifications to this nonsense appointment philosophy, because we see that so many people have lost faith in the teachings and the practice of Krishna consciousness by looking at the behavior of the managers of that society because of disobeying the order of the spiritual master. Everyone should come back to this point and serve Śrīla Prabhupada in the proper capacity. Then there could be harmony, there can be unity. But if the problem is this personal motivation, personal agenda, personal aggrandizement, the pod problem. I'm not referring to the Prabhupada Anti-Defamation Association. I'm referring to profit, adoration, and distinction. That is the problem. In 1986, when there was a so-called reform amongst the GBCs, one of the leaders amongst the GBCs told the devotee who personally told me, I'm only concerned how big my picture is going to be on the altar. Is it going to be 3 inches or 5 inches or 6 inches? After all the damage, the chaos, and the nonsense they had done, he's only concerned about his puja, his precious puja. Everyone should return back and accept Prabhupada as the Acharya. Only obeisances to Prabhupada, only Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja and all ISKCON properties, farms, gurukuls, and everything should be returned back to the worship of the proper Acharya. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Further, Vinkat, I see that you've got a point here. Maybe you could elaborate it on. They say Śrīla Prabhupada is the Siksha Guru. Vinkat, but what is? Could you further elaborate on your point?
Yeah. So I was watching a video where when Prabhu is explaining nicely the history of all the GBC resolutions post 1977. And, so they say that initial 6 months, you should join a temple and you should chant and you should offer obeisances to Śrīla Prabhupāda, because you'll not be familiar with any other gurus. Then in those 6 months, you should get familiar with gurus, the different gurus, and then you choose a guru, and then you can, from then onwards, you can start offering your pranam mantras to your particular chosen guru. But if the guru falls down, then you should again go back to Śrīla Prabhupāda and temporarily, like until you find a new guru, like that. So, and they say Śrīla Prabhupāda is a Shiksha guru, and then you can choose a Diksha guru from so many, it's like a menu of gurus. So
thank you very much. Very, very, very enlightening what you've just said. I want you to do one thing for me, is bring that letter back up of July 9th on the screen and go specifically to the list of people that Prabhupada appointed as Ritvik representatives. Because what they did was claim that they have become Diksha Guru. This was the fake news. Let's just go over the list briefly. And I'm going to just target in here for everyone's, okay, it was Kirtanananda, who I personally worked with and saw his behavior, not only while Prabhupada was living and after he passed from us. Was Kirtanananda ever a pure devotee of Krishna? Based on what we know about his demoniac activities that he carried on. And there are 9 books written by Henry Dortowski that reveal his deviation. 2, Mr. Satsrup. Please, I'm going to ask everyone, go ahead and refer to his wonderful drawings that he's currently doing and see his state of condition that he's in now because of his results as a so-called pure devotee. We already know 2 people that have wives that he deviated with. Not to get into them. Jayapataka, just see his picture. Would you like to end up like him? Tamal Krishna, killed in a car on the way from Mayapur. And before he left, he said, when I come back, I'm going to be the head of the ISKCON movement. And he was killed in a car accident. Hridayananda, where is he at, Mr. Pure Devotee that went back to school and now comes up with all of this concoction? No neck beads, no tilak, no japa. Bhavananda, we know his history. I'm not going to go over it in this class, this discussion. Just look at this and realize this whole thing is fake news. Hansaduda, running around with machine guns, blowing up car lots back in San Francisco. And then he repented and sent an amazing letter. You can read the letter. We won't do it today. Telling everyone that this whole thing was fake. Romeshwar also renounced being a guru because he knew it was fake. The letters are written by him, everyone. Harikesh left with his masseuse person. And then he left her and he's with somebody else and a dog in Alachua, Florida. Bhagawan, who knows what he's about? And Jayatirtha had his head chopped off by one of his disciples. Now you tell me that this isn't fake news. And all they did was perpetrate it after these people fell apart. Then they brought in new people. And then they started to perpetrate their bogus news. And this thing has become one huge chaotic environment in that group. And our goal is to revive Prabhupada as Diksha Siksha Guru for everyone. And anyone who's interested in initiation as a Prabhupada disciple, we had a wonderful initiation ceremony last week, which was so enlivening for everyone that attended. And it gives hope to the Krishna Consciousness movement based on Prabhupada's pure teachings, which our association is representing. Believe it. So, Venkat Bhatta,
There's a
Prabhu.
question by Prabhu
Should we do that?
Saniram.
Okay, we'll have one more question, and then we'll end the talk for today. Sunny Ram, what's his name? Venkat
Saniram
Prabhu?
Barman. Please go ahead.
Yes, where are you, Prabhu? Sunny Ram Baram, where are you?
Hare Krishna, Haribol.
Yeah, Haribol.
Prabhu, I cannot speak English good. I am from Bangladesh.
Okay, so why
Just-
don't you do
just-
this? Why don't you do
only-
this? You could type
just
the
only-
question.
Just only listening. Just only
Okay.
listening in class. Okay.
Oh,
Haribol.
maybe he
Thank you
raised
very
his hand by
much.
mistake. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for attending the class. Remember, we'll be back on Wednesday evening with Chaitanya Charitamrita, a discussion and reading, and we'll carry on with the readings of Prabhupada's diaries and further discussion on Prabhupada's mood and how we have to understand his mood and the position that we're all in as his servants moving forward to expand the Krishna Consciousness movement through this association that we've created. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupada. Please play the kirtan, Venkat Bhatta Prabhu, for us. Prabhupada playing the bongos, as Janis Priya explained, and people clanking away on the cartels as he chants Hare Krishna to lead us back home, back to Godhead. Hari Bol.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you very much, Venkat, for your wonderful production today of this class. And we want to thank everyone for coming forward and being a part of it. And we'll push on week after week, year after year, to maintain this focus on Śrīla Prabhupada as Diksha and Shiksha Guru. If anyone is interested in initiation, please get in touch with us and we'll discuss the process. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupada. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha
Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.